I think people are too quick to go out and look for investors and funding. And I'd say just put a little extra thought into how could we start this on our own? How could we implement and get cash flow from that? Now take it to the next step and get cash flow from that. Because if you don't need to get investors, you have come up with a very clever system. But I'm not trying to say, hey, if your system requires investment, don't shy away from that also. But you've still got to write up your business plan so it would invite investment.
Hey everyone, this is Devin Miller here with another episode of The Inventive Journey. I'm your host, Devin Miller, the serial entrepreneur that's grown several startups into 7- and 8-figure businesses, as well as the founder and CEO of Miller IP Law, where he helps startups and small businesses with their patents and trademarks. If you ever need help with yours, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Now, today we've got another great guest on the podcast, Thom Ives. And Thom was born and raised in Dallas, Texas. And he was class president and loved swimming in high school. And then during that time, had a lawn mowing business and also did curb cleaning during high school. Then went off to college, got a mechanical engineering degree at the University of Austin. Always loved to work in business and technology. So he worked for the Naval Nuclear Program for a period of time, went back to Texas A&M and got a graduate degree in data science, if I can not get tongue twisted, data science and predictive modeling. Stayed and worked in Texas while the kids were growing up, worked for the corporation, and then also got into a bit of real estate investing. In the midst of all that, had a few data science roles and decided to start his own business, his current business, which is delivering education to data scientists. So with that much as an introduction, welcome on the podcast, Thom.
Thanks, Devin. Glad to be here.
Absolutely excited to have you on. So I just kind of give the 30 or 45-second version of a much longer journey, but maybe to rewind and go back in time a bit. Tell us a little bit about how your journey got started being born and raised in Dallas.
Oh, it was a great town to grow up in. Probably when I was growing up there, I didn't appreciate as much because I don't really like hot weather. Like it can get very hot down there, but overall, a great metropolitan area to grow up in. At least when I was growing up there, I'm sure it's a lot bigger than when I was there. And that business, one of those businesses was painting addresses on curbs. I certainly didn't want to be cleaning them, but it was actually quite a good business. And then, but yeah, I grew a lot, like you said, being senior class president, and did actually mechanical engineering at the University of Texas, Austin. That was really fell in love with predictive modeling during that journey. And like you highlighted, I worked for the Naval Nuclear Program, but as a civilian. So I went to Naval Nuclear Power School, surrounded by ensigns with a shirt and tie, but getting the same training as them, both in the classroom and on the prototypes. But when they would go out to sea on their ships and submarines, I stayed behind at the prototype and trained new naval personnel. That was quite challenging, loved it. Then went off, realized I really wanted to do more. I was going to go help design the Seawolf fast attack submarine with Westinghouse, but the plant manager where I was serving for the training really valued the civilians that had gotten my training. He wouldn't let me go, so I said, okay. And I applied to graduate school at Texas A&M, managed their research reactor there while I was getting through school. We started having kids there, and just fell in love even more deeply with predictive modeling, both kinematic systems and dynamic systems, control systems design. But it was at that point, data science wasn't even called data science. It would just mix into the engineering modeling as we needed. And that's when I started learning neural networks, expert systems, fuzzy logic, fell in love with it. But we didn't call it data science at the time. We didn't have Python or any of the great tools we use now. It was all in C. And then my first job, I was looking at both industry and academia, and got a pretty good offer in the Boise, Idaho area for industry, and ended up moving around in this, what we call the Treasure Valley up here in the Boise area of Idaho for the last quarter century. And now I mostly work remotely
So
for other
now, before
companies
we
studying
dive or
data
jump over
science.
that, because quarter century is quite a bit of time to just or give about one sentence to. So you graduated, or you came back, went to Texas at Texas A&M, got the degree in data science, or what they call data science today.
No,
And
it was still mechanical engineering, by the way. I was beginning to learn some of the principles that we use in data science, but it was still predictive modeling for multi-physical systems, although I was getting that from the mechanical engineering department, working closely with the EE department too, electrical engineering.
All right, makes good sense. So now you get that degree and you come out and you're saying, okay, would love to utilize that. And you said, okay, I could either go the academic route, or I could go, or academia, or I could go into private sector. Now, what, was it just the job offer was better? And, which is a lot of times the case with the academia versus private sector, or was it, hey, I'd rather go work on things, or kind of, how did you make that kind of initial decision as to what you're going to do after graduation?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I think what I learned in hindsight, industry just moves faster than academia, because I remember sitting in my new role in Boise, and getting a call from a university or two saying, "Hey, are you still open? Do you still need a role somewhere?" I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I took an industry role. Oh, sorry, we couldn't act faster." And I think you just have to be a bit more patient. But it wasn't a total loss academic wise, because I did do several semesters of teaching at the Boise State University campus, teaching control system design, and then teaching design of experiments with a good friend who's now the dean of the University of Idaho's mechanical engineering department. We taught a semester of design of experiments together, and really that was very fulfilling. Really enjoyed helping the students in all those classes.
No, makes perfect sense. So you go into private sector, and so what was the job, or what was the position that you started working for?
Yeah, so a lot of different roles, because the world's just changed so fast, and some projects funding gets canceled. But I started with disk arrays, basically multiple hard disks working together as one, RAID storage systems. And then there was a new program spinning up, which was called atomic resolution storage. And it was a way to, we see this everywhere now, but it was the beginning of solid state drives, and really pushing the boundaries of those. And HP had an idea out of HP Labs for how to do a micro electromechanical system type hard drive. And I joined that team, did a lot of cutting edge research and predictive modeling, and then that project basically got canceled. And then went and worked just for survival at this point, not wanting to move my young family around too much. I joined the toner cartridge team, to put it in layman's terms, and helping with the testing and the new design of toner cartridges. And then moved to a team that was even more analytical with regard to making sure our color reproduction was very high quality and consistent across multiple printer models.
So now, was this all within the same company, or or was it moving between different companies as a different or projects came available?
I was almost 17 years at Hewlett Packard in this valley. The very first job, I was a manager of advanced products at a company that made automated wet etch and clean tools for the semiconductor industry. The reason that didn't last long is I just felt they weren't being managed wisely, and it ended up being a good predictive move, because 2 years later that company shut its door, and I had a long career at HP. But HP started to have a lot of layoffs too, and I eventually got tapped at the end of that job I was just describing. And then, but just kept looking for very coding and analytic, predictive centric jobs. And a friend who's just very wise cloud engineer, we got together, and And he said, Thom, you're a data scientist. I said, well, yeah, I guess I'd say that. He said, well, do you have that role title? I said, no. He said, do you know how much they make? I went, you're talking the most ignorant guy on the planet on current events, even in his own industry. He said, you really should, lean that way. And he was right. Once I started peddling myself as a data scientist and showed what I could do in that realm, I've got to be honest, my salary went up quite rapidly.
Well, that's
And it's
awesome.
been nice. Yeah, it is.
Interesting
frankly.
how if you label things a little bit different or I guess accurately or what people are wanting that how it can be impactful. So you went to HP,
Absolutely.
stayed with there for 17 years, and then kind of you said that they went through a round of layoffs or otherwise had to
Yeah.
downsize. So now you're saying, okay, I'm labeling myself as a data scientist. So where did you go from there?
So it wasn't after HP that I started saying I was data scientist. It was after the next role that was in a semiconductor company. And we really were doing pretty hardcore production level repeated data science, at least algorithm development. But I think in hindsight, when I looked at the specialized methods I was coming up with, it was hardcore data science stuff, and I loved it. And so if it weren't for this friend helping me analyze my next, best career choice, I think I would not be near as excited and elated and happy as I am now doing what I'm doing. And now, currently, I work for Echo Global Logistics, which most of my data science work and predictive modeling work has been done for high tech companies. Echo is a shipping logistics company, but I have never felt more challenged in my analytical work because we have a lot of data, and making the most of that data can really affect our profits. And so I have a cubic buttload of work now to keep me busy and that I can address to help make my company more profitable. And I'm loving it because I get to really make a difference every day instead of just cranking the wheel.
No, makes perfect sense. So you kind of at least on paper and to a degree in reality transition over to doing data scientists and kind of taking on that role and doing that. And now they weren't doing that earlier in career, but kind of made that shift to that pivot at least and career wise. So now how long did you kind of stay in that role and how long did you kind of continue on doing that before you kind of decided to go out on your own?
Yeah, no, that's a good question because there was a clear that there was a seemed like there was a transition point in my career at HP where I was doing less and less physics-based modeling and more just, hey, what can we do to get the greatest return on this data we have?
Mm-hmm.
And the type of modeling, again, switching from just pure physics, multi-physics to just pure data. And then there were many times it was a mixture of both, but I would say it wasn't until after that working in that algorithm development group where really we were data scientists, but not being called that. It was at that semiconductor company. And then I went to Underwriters Laboratories and was their lead data scientist for one of their businesses called Prospector, which was a huge, well-respected chemical database. And really, that was the first time I had, even though I'd been a data scientist and was doing data science work, now it's full-time hardcore data science with a data science role title. And that was what made the big difference. Although the transition to doing pure algorithm development was a good bump in pay too at the semiconductor company.
Makes sense. So now as you're going through that roles, kind of help us catch up to a bit of where you're at today. So kind of what was that
Yeah.
transition or that impetus for saying, hey, I'd like to go try and do something on my own or otherwise, branch out a bit. How did that kind of come about or what motivated that?
Well, I became painfully aware that I had pretty much no online presence and that was going to hurt me when I needed to search for new roles. So I started looking at what was online available for data science. And I realized that there was a way I could teach that wasn't being done that could possibly really help people. At first, it was an experiment, but I remember the first time research assistant, a teaching assistant at a university who was teaching an advanced lab, reached out and said to me, "Your blog post on matrix inversion just enabled me to teach my lab so much better. Thank you for the way you wrote it." And I realized, wait a minute. Okay, I've had a bad habit of underselling myself, undermarketing myself, underestimating myself. I need to push this more. So I started just trying to help write better and better blog posts. And then I started making a lot of really good friends whose voices I liked on LinkedIn. And before long, they were encouraging me, "You need to write more posts." I went, "Really?" "Well, yeah, your posts are really good." And
Mm.
even as I look back, I think those weren't good, but I guess they were saying, no, even those were good. But I just kept trying to push the envelope to say, how could this be explained better? What is not being explained that people could really help people? And so I just got better and better at the way I delivered things. Well, I also was helping people. If they reached out to me for mentoring, I would do what I could. And I was surprised, Devin. It's amazing, even with someone you don't know, if you're just honest and encouraging with them, what a huge difference that can make to someone new in career. And it started to blow me away how I could be helpful to hundreds of people at a time. And a lot of that was through my posting and my blog posts, but my posting on LinkedIn. And then people just started writing nice posts about me and my help to them. Well, now I'm approaching 60,000 followers on LinkedIn, and even get paid to do promotional posts, which adds to my bottom line. And a lot of people know I'm developing an educational platform to deliver data science education in just a bit different way, unique to the way I post on LinkedIn. And it just seems like people really appreciate the way I teach data science. So I'm really thrilled about that, because I've always wanted to be a good teacher, someone that felt like, wow, that guy made a difference in my knowledge growth.
Makes perfect sense. So now you decide to say, okay, I'm going to start doing a little bit more on LinkedIn. Otherwise, hey, I'm getting getting some traction. People are liking what I'm doing. And so now, how did that kind of evolve into what you're doing today, or where, kind of catch us up a bit of where you're at today?
Yeah, so some good publishers were approaching me about writing books, and then we'd start to come up with the book plan. I say we because there's a dear friend I have. I've never met him literally face to face, just video calls, but we were going to co-author because I really liked the way he thought. He liked the way I thought. We'd learned a lot from each other, and we were writing a book from a special angle for machine learning. And we just did not see eye to eye with the publisher for the way we wanted to teach. And then it started to occur to us, if we do this in a book, and then we find a better way to teach what we just did, we've got to wait for the next edition. And then we thought, maybe for the way we want to deliver material, we need a platform, and not an existing platform, but a new method of just delivering data science type education. And so thank God he has a software engineering background. So we're working together to develop an automated way to deliver this material and update it very rapidly. And the other advantage, Devin, let's say we're writing a new, what would be the equivalent of a book, but it's on our education platform. Well, we can release chapter 1 right away. We don't have to wait for all 12 to 20 chapters to be done to start delivering the benefit of each chapter in sequence and improving it as we go, so we can get feedback, et cetera. But we want to build data science principles into the performance of the website from the get-go too, so that what we're practicing with the website, what we preach in the material.
No, makes perfect sense. So now, as you've launched this, as the business is now up and going, you're working on the platform, getting that going. Kind of, where's the business at today? Onboarded clients, it's taken a rocket ship to the top, and you're ready to retire next year. It's been figuring it out and getting the clients in place and figuring out marketing and client onboarding and iterating. gone down in a ball of flames and it's now in bankruptcy and it's a thing of the past. Give us an idea of where it's at today.
Sure. So if we take it with a human analogy, we're crawling around the house real good and beginning to pull up. Meaning, let me put that in better terms though. We know the way we want to teach is popular. We have a lot of work ahead. We know the way we want to author the material. Now it's about taking the content and automating it into a multi-page, very navigable website. And then we have what we know will be a viable, pay its own bills economic model so that we don't have to charge our visitors. We'll have an ad system, but we plan to be a little unique this way. We want to control the ads ourselves. We want them to be specific to data scientists. And when I say data scientists, I should say data specialists. We're not trying to rule out business intelligence people or business analysts. Basically, anyone that has data specialization and cares about predictive modeling or cares about data visualization or presenting data in the way that gets the most return on data. We say data science, but we're really trying to be very inclusive of all data evangelists, as we call them, people that know data makes a difference. But the key there, a big reason for this, Devin, is a lot of people already come to me for free. And so I've made a brand name out of that. And I have a lot of young people call me dad. I've never asked them to do it. That just started to happen. They call me dad or papa. And a lot of those friends are from India and Central Africa. And so I don't want to charge those people, but then I think, well, why would I charge my South American friends or my Central American friends or even my US or Canadian friends or European friends? Why don't we just control our own ads that are specific to data science? We'll make plenty of money initially that way. And then we'll find ways to make money beyond that don't charge our learners. We want that education to be free, but that much traffic does come with some form of profit if you're looking for it.
Makes perfect sense. Well, sounds like it'll be an exciting path and a great journey to continue on with. So, well, now as we've kind of caught up to the present day of your journey and even maybe a little bit of where it's headed, great time to transition to the two questions I always ask at the end of each episode. So we'll jump to those now. So the first question I always ask is, along your journey, what was the worst business decision you ever made, and what'd you learn from it?
So I consider myself still a real estate investor. And Devin, I've done this too many times to count, but it became very salient, very poignant at this point that, Thom, you usually make a good start, good decisions, but you're not patient and consistent enough, and you think other people are smarter and have better ideas than you. Stop doing that. So what happened was I had 2 houses and a 16-plex. They were doing great. And I should have never sold any of them. Should have just kept collecting the cash flow, kept using the cash flow to improve them. Had I done that, I might not still need to work for the man right now. But I learned an important lesson. And really what I would pass on from that is, please just be patient and consistent with your own ideas. It doesn't mean you don't need to refine them or rework them, but don't run off for the next shiny thing. I like the way Robert Kiyosaki puts it. He says, really, becoming wealthy is a slow, repetitive, boring process. And what I was doing was quite slow and boring and repetitive, but it was working. And the thing that I went into, I had one really good partner and one lying, cheating son of a bitch partner. And now, thank God, the limited partners are suing that lying, cheating partner and getting their money back. So we all are getting our money back, but it was a hard lesson. Had I just stayed with what I was doing on my own, I'd be much further ahead. But again, the moral of that was just be patient, consistent, believe in your own processes.
Makes perfect sense, and always hard, or sometimes hard to see the mistakes we make, but always great to learn from them. So second
Absolutely.
question, and you probably just touched on it maybe a bit, but I'll ask it nonetheless, which is, now if you're talking to someone that's just getting into a startup or a small business, what would be the one piece of advice you'd give them?
Yeah, this is this one's a hard one to answer because you don't want to make it too trivial. You really do want to be helpful to the people coming after you, because thank God my wife and I ended up pretty good with the way we had run the real estate. It didn't turn out as well as had we been more patient. But what helped us do really good is I was really good with the numbers.
Mm.
So to me, a great business plan is good, but the brain and heart of that business plan is reasonable financial modeling. And being really good at that and making that the heart and soul of your business plan, but being willing to refine it and not inflate it, that's key. The other thing, and I'm going to be very rare, I think, this way, Devin, I think people are too quick to go out and look for investors and funding. And I'd say just put a little extra thought into, how could we start this on our own? How could we implement and get cash flow from that? Now take it to the next step and get cash flow from that. Because if you don't need to get investors, you have come up with a very clever system. But I'm not trying to say, hey, if your system requires investment, don't shy away from that also. But you've still got to write up your business plan so it would invite investment.
No, makes perfect sense, and I think it's a great piece of advice. So awesome. Well, now with that is we now kind of wrap towards the end of the episode. If people want to reach out to you, they want to be a customer, they want to be a client, they want to be an employee, they want to be an investor, they want to be your next best friend, any or all of the above, what's the best way to reach out to you, contact you, find out more?
I am very active on LinkedIn, and I do like that platform. Most people that know me through there. But if you want to get even closer to me after connecting to me that way, we do have an integrated machine learning and AI Slack work group that anyone that wants to be part of it can join, as long as you behave. We've only had to kick 2 people off, but out of almost 1,600 people, I feel like we're insanely lucky that way. So please, just if you can connect with me on LinkedIn, THOM, IV as in Victor, ES, then just say, can I be part of your integrated family? And of course, I will say yes.
Awesome. Well, definitely a great way to connect and learn a lot more, and if nothing else, make a new best friend. So with that, thank you again, Thom, for coming on the podcast. It's been it's been a pleasure. Now, for all of you, the listeners are out there, if you have your own journey to share and you'd like to be a guest on the podcast, we'd love to have you. So just go to inventiveguest.com, apply to be on the show. Couple more things as listeners, make sure to click share, subscribe, and leave us a review, because it's a really great way to help us to make sure that we can share as many these awesome journeys with as many founders, co-founders, owners of startups and small businesses as are out there. And with that, if you ever need help with your patents, your trademarks, or anything else with your startup, your small business, just go to strategymeeting.com, grab some time with us to chat, and we're always here to help. Well, thank you again, Thom, and wish the next leg of your journey even better than the last.
Thanks, Devin. I was really happy to be here with